guys, I'm Kelby and I'm here with Aaron Martinez. So we're here to talk about his documentary series, Struggle Beyond the Decade. We've seen a sneak peek today as well as hearing about his documentary release, which will be May 6th. So, Aaron, tell me what inspired this documentary series.
So I was inspired to do this documentary series. One, I'm a student graphic designer, I'm an artist, so filmmaking is kind of, it fits into that category a little bit, but what really inspired it was, that I had a comrade that I served with in Iraq that took his own life, and it really just kind of hit me at that moment as it was something that I kind of feel like it was a calling for me to do. I'm a firm believer, if you have the skills necessary, if you have the intelligence to elaborate on something, then that's what you should do. I would have done it in any platform, any medium, whether it was just me going out and speaking to people, or doing a painting or anything that would help kind of try to transmit change. So that was my goal, my objective, and I thought that film, since we're an evolving people, and we continue to explore into different mediums, especially with media, TV, radio, those are those hot mediums that people are enticed to these days compared to more like a still life painting or whatnot. So I knew that film was going to be the best way that I could reach the biggest audience to start making change, because right now veteran suicide is at 22 a day. It's the number. The accuracy of that is pretty right on. It probably could be even more now. But I wanted to do my part, and since I was personally involved with one of my own comrades that lost his life that way, that I wanted to do my part. So that was the inspiration that started the process.
So you started this before one of your good friends died, correct?
Yeah. So my good friend actually. He committed suicide as well during the making of the film. So, and I'm not the only person impacted by this. There's several people that could be sitting in the same seat as me right now, sharing multiple stories about 2 to 3 people. Just recently, 2 days ago, I had another soldier that was a soldier of mine that took his own life. So Cody Fawcett and your friends and family out there, I'd like to send my condolences, but it's one of those things that's impacting so many different people, and everybody's trying to figure out a way they can make change. There's groups starting nonprofit groups. There's people doing marches and trying to raise awareness. The 22 push-up thing was kind of a big internet movement thing at that time, and I really feel like I don't feel like I have the answers, but I feel like I've done enough research and talked to enough veterans at this point that my delivery hopefully starts embarking towards change.
And I feel like your platform of visual storytelling is really going to help you too. So besides your visual storytelling, what else motivates you to keep this message going and keep this movement going as well?
Well, to me, the numbers, like when you look at, everybody, suicide's never going to stop. It's one of those things that people get into those dark places, and they feel like they have no alternative. They may have options, they may have people to talk to, but they're not always utilizing those things because they isolate themselves. So what I'm trying to do is really create a way to look at this differently. A lot of it has to do with perspective, and that's what this film delivers. It's the way that I utilize film and sound to kind of try to help push people to see that there's different perspectives in this. The VA, the Veterans Affairs, have their doctors and the people that are working in the pharmaceutical world to try to think that these avenues of treating and curing this post-traumatic stress disorder and depression and all those other things that involve with suicide is a way that they're doing their part. But necessarily, sometimes things don't work, and we learn those things through trial and error, experience. I mean, even my sleeping pills that I take, have the suicide hotline right on the cap. And a lot of people choose that alternative. But really, it's just about perspective, and that's kind of what I'm delivering with this film. It's not your standard HBO, Netflix special. It's just different. It really shows the character of the people. Nobody's all dressed up and trying to be who they're not. I'm not staging them, or I'm not trying to make them say anything. I just really open the camera up and ask them questions and allow them to express those things. And hopefully the idea is that somebody else can relate to their story and begin their process. Because these guys talk about rough things. They talk about some of the traumas that they've experienced during combat. They talk about some of their trials and errors and some of their downfalls. And even to some of the things that help them find success and find their transition out of the military into the civilian world and find successes there. So it's really about perspective and trying to solve the problem with one answer is not going to work when there's thousands and thousands of people that are going through this.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you talk a lot about people, so tell me about those type of people that have touched you along this journey.
Oh man.
This process.
Every episode has kind of that person that kind of carries it. You kind of, fall in love with them a little bit. You kind of fall in love with their story, and kind of you can really relate to them. Right now I'm working on episode 4. I'm trying to finalize that so we can, post it up and be ready to go when it's time for that one to go up. And, Bob Putnam, he's a really shy guy. He's a really, he never really spoke much when he was a soldier or when he was a leader in the Army, and just to see him, be brave and bold enough to step forward and be able to talk about some of the things that he did was really, I guess what I'm trying to get at is some of the people that I thought that were going to get on camera and just kind of be like, give these short, stiff answers and not really have an angle really to kind of help drive the points that I wanted, which was to try to stop veteran suicide.
Yeah.
They really surprised me because they changed on camera. I got to visualize that being behind the camera and conducting the interviews. I got to really see them actually kind of deal with it and change on camera, and that was a really magical moment. I think that's going to be one of the things that's going to stick with people the most is that they will actually see these moments that these people are going through this, be able to relate to a topic like that. Another part that was really impactful to me was I actually caught a flashback on camera. If people don't know what a flashback is, it's basically like it's a recall of a traumatized memory. And there was kind of an accidental thing during the production part of it, during the interview, that like a truck or something or a motorcycle fired up, and instantly, because of the subject that we were talking about, his mind went into a totally different place.
That triggered it.
Yeah, it triggered it, and you could actually, it was very authentic. It wasn't something that we staged, it was just something that happened. It was live, and so I know those are going to be some of the parts that really, parents, brothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, uncles, friends that are
friends of friends. I mean,
right, because everybody has somebody they know that's in the military, and it's one of those sensitive subjects. Like, how do I relate to this person? How do I talk to them? How do I even reach out if they need me? So just like me, I'm having those moments right now. The screen's in the background. Those are going to be some of the important parts of the film that really make this film different and this documentary different than other ones that I've seen that people might have seen on YouTube or on Netflix about post-traumatic stress. So
I think it's such a cool way for you to show the way their emotions change, because sometimes that's so hard for people to even talk about, even if you are a family member or a friend. It's just getting those moments of that shift, of that vulnerability. I think that's so cool that you're doing that.
Mm-hmm. And that's something too, is there is, that vulnerability is, it takes, it's not easy to talk about. There's a lot of the questions that I asked these guys drew up some old memories that just, you have that on-spot moment where I think they were kind of internally realizing some things themselves that maybe they had missed out on, or that they had, not really tackled that problem right then and there, you know. So I think it's going to have that impact on a lot of other people too, that maybe, and hopefully it will entice a brotherhood. It'll entice people to start reaching out and finding old connections, because these guys that I interviewed were from my unit, and I hadn't seen them for 12 years.
Wow.
And getting together, we were all able to kind of talk about these things that were sensitive, you know, because everybody has perspective, you know. Something that happened here might have been this firsthand experience, but knowing that this person had an argument with this person prior to them dying, you know, it impacts them differently than the person that's actually in the vehicle with them, or the person that was their best friend that was back on the base camp. And I recently was tracking down an old friend of mine from a photograph that I was using for the show, and found an article about him that was written in Army Times, talking about some of that process that he, you know, some of the post-traumatic problems that he was having with the loss of some of his friends and teammates. And I was actually on the ground, actually parked probably 100 meters away from that vehicle when it blew up. And just to kind of, you know, from his perspective, to see how that impacted him, you know, and knowing that he was a very close friend with him, and so he knew the family members. And in this particular case, his name was Sergeant Shepard. It was announced that his daughter was, or his child was born on the radio. So we all were like, hey, congratulations. We were all telling him, you know, big moment for you. You know, you haven't seen your kid yet, but, you know, it's born, it's healthy, and here's the weight, this is the height, or the size of the baby and everything. And then, you know, nothing but, you know, 10, 15 minutes later, he died. And to kind of see how that impacted me, but then how it impacted somebody that he was, you know, super close to.
Such a high and low moment.
And that was one of those things that our unit went through, was just this, and it's not that my unit was the only one that's done that, you know, there's multiple units that have had this, like, you know, movie reel of events that happened over a course of 12 months. You know, you look at 12 months, you're like, oh, a year passes pretty quick, but in that place, in a combat zone, you know, time slows down, because your hours of operations are, you know, 12, 15-hour missions. So it's very, very tough to deal with those things.
But you've created such a cool series and such a cool platform for people to speak out. What other messages do you hope people get from this?
Humor.
Yeah.
I've always been a big jokester myself. I've always been, you know, into comedy, you know, stand-up comedians and stuff like that. Just because stand-up comedians have a way that they can take a sensitive subject like homosexuality or like race, or stereotypes, and they can make a whole crowd laugh about something that in general population, you have two people from different political standpoints or different cultural standpoints, we're going to have arguments about these things. And we watched it with the Black Lives Matter movement thing and all this other, the police officers versus Black Lives Matter, all these different, you know, and if you sit down and you can kind of humorize about it, you can find a way to agree on something. Because I think that's what laughter is when people share laughter, they're actually sharing a moment of agreeing on something. So that's something I use a lot in the film. Some of the episodes, I pull it back a little bit because I want them to feel something different. But humor is a way to kind of enlighten the topic before you get into the real meat and potatoes of what the problem is. So that's something that, hopefully people don't get too offended by it, but like, that's just me, I'm gonna try to make things funny, even if I have to tease you a little bit, you're more than welcome to tease me back. So I always said, when you're in the Army, you gotta have thick skin. So hopefully these guys got some thick skin.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're gonna go look at the sneak peek.
I remember doing briefs in the Post Theater, and they were kind of giving us some briefs on what was going on over there. And so by the time that we were getting ready to go, I mean, the ground war, the initial push was over, so now we start to hear about these things, IEDs, and some of the tactics the enemies are using, and they showed us some footage of what was going on over there. coupled by some of the units may not be bringing tanks. You might be on a Humvee. And I think that's when I first saw some people really realize, holy shit, you know, this is gonna be serious. I remember one thing that really stuck out to me during the brief. They talked about the suicide bombers, and it was speculation at this point, but one of the things they talked about is a possibility of purposely being infected with AIDS, so when they did their suicide bombing mission, that it may not kill many soldiers, but you're wounding them and passing on something that's going to impact the rest of their life. And I think that moment for me and for other people was that we were facing an enemy that just there was not a care in the world. And a part of us, I think it really got us prepared for what we were about to do. I think many of us needed to hear that because it gave us a realization that we're about to go in some shit, and we got people that have absolutely no regard for human life.
Hope you guys enjoyed watching it. This has been great getting to know Aaron and his mission behind this documentary series. It's going to touch many people's lives, and we hope that it starts a movement for brotherhood. Check out the documentary release May 6th. Stay tuned.
And also don't forget to check out my Facebook page. You can follow the storyline and kind of how this thing started. And I just want to reach out there and try to touch as many people as I can. So I can't wait for May 6th to come. It can't come soon enough. And I hope you guys enjoy it.